My name is Heydon. I'm a fellow at Cambridge Silicon Radio, so I enjoy this job way too much, I'm afraid, as you can probably tell. This session we're going to talk about profiles in interoperability and what that actually means. In terms of the agenda, it's very, very simple. First question I want to ask is, why include Bluetooth technology? Why include these profile things? The next question I want to answer is, why does Bluetooth standardize the whole stack? There are plenty of organizations out there that do parts of the stack. They do the physical layer, or they do the MAC, or they do a single profile or something like that. But they don't do everything from bottom to top. So why would we want to do that? I'm then going to do a quick overview of some of the profiles that are out there, both in classic BR/EDR, AMP, and also in low energy. I'm then going to try and get to encourage you to think about what profiles are missing in Bluetooth and how would you go about creating new profiles. How do we test them? How would we qualify them? And then I've got a small little call to action. So the first question, why include Bluetooth technology? Well, wireless technology provides end users with the applications they value. What I mean by that is that people don't just buy a cell phone or smartphone just to make phone calls. In fact, nowadays, I think I do more on my cell phone than anything other than make phone calls. I can't actually remember the last time I made a phone call. In fact, it might have been about 2 weeks ago when I actually made a phone call on my cell phone. I play games on my cell phone, I track where I go on my bicycle on my cell phone, I track how quickly I pedal, but make phone calls? That's like so last century. So if you think about this, the cell phone has changed. No longer is it something where you make a phone call and perhaps have a text message or two. It's changed to a full application platform, just like the PC was 20 years ago. And if you think about the PC 20 years ago, that was when all the buzz about USB came along. Hey, we've got this standard bus to allow you to connect peripherals like keyboards and mice and missile launchers. There is actually a USB missile launcher. It's been prototyped in a couple of countries across. So what I think is that Bluetooth has become the USB for the smartphone. We're not going to have a USB port on the side of a cell phone. The cell phones look too pretty as it is. What we do have, though, is Bluetooth, and Bluetooth does allow us to have all of those peripherals connected to the cell phone. So the next question I wanted to answer was, why does Bluetooth standardize the whole stack? It's actually a really difficult question to answer sometimes, because there are an awful lot of other standards organizations out there that don't do this. Just take Wi-Fi Alliance, for example. They don't standardize the radio. They take the radio from something called the IEEE. And the IEEE doesn't standardize the higher layers, and Wi-Fi doesn't really standardize the higher layers, although they're starting to do that. There are other organizations like DLNA and the IETF, etc., that do that. So why does Bluetooth do it differently? Well, it comes down to historic. The history of Bluetooth was that we started when cell phones looked like a chocolate bar. They were thick and big and bulky, and there was no way you could update the firmware in those devices. The concept of having a firmware upgrade of a mobile phone back 20 or 15 years ago was unheard of. Nowadays, I get a software update on my phones, at least every other week, it feels like. So we've changed the whole way that the industry works. But the Bluetooth specification was built around the concept that you couldn't upgrade the firmware for the phones, and therefore it had to implement everything from the start. So we had to do the whole stack, not just the lower layers, to ensure the interoperability of everybody's cell phone with everybody's headset and everybody's car and everybody's printer and everybody's mouse and everybody's keyboard. So that's why we standardize the whole stack. And quite frankly, even in today, when you look at cell phones that, latest cell phone I've got, it's this Windows Phone thing, and, it keeps giving me updates. It's got loads of apps on it, and it can talk to pretty much every Bluetooth device out there. It's really nice phone, but we don't really need to define the whole stack anymore. But we still do, because we still believe in the whole concept that profiles enable interoperability. So when we look at the Bluetooth stack, one way of looking at it is in this sort of very, very prettily colored diagram. Down at the bottom, we've got the physical layer. Then above that, we've got the baseband, the link manager protocol, the host controller interface, the interface between the host and the controller, L2 cap, service discovery, gap. And then above that, we have what is known as the application layer. And the application layer is actually what we're talking about here. So in Bluetooth world, these are the profiles and the services that Bluetooth provides.